Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to the channel. So we are continuing to work on the turbo setup, turbo progress for the K20 right-hand drive DA. So if you didn't watch the last video, which you should have by now, then we finished up building the manifold. Nothing crazy, just did a log style. Later on I'll probably try and build a tubular, but you know, another day, another dollar. So yeah, so where we are now is I figure for this video we would work on the exhaust portion of this, because it's not going to be just as simple or straightforward, I guess. I mean, I'm sorry, I already have a full 3-inch stainless exhaust. I'm building a downpipe up to that portion, and then I am going to be doing a dump tube, just open dump screamer pipe. I want the turbo noises. So yeah, join me here as we start working on this thing, because we got something tricky that we got to do that we haven't done before yet. Well, at least I haven't done before yet. So I got the turbo off. We are currently looking at manifold right there. So one of the things that I'm trying to do here is I need and want as much clearance as possible. So running the flange that's on the turbo as is, the 4-bolt flange, I'd probably put the downpipe somewhere around right here-ish, pretty close to the brake line. And you know, I can suck it in a little bit closer. And I don't like bolts. I hate bolts. I hate the idea of having to bolt things to things. I love V-bands. So that's what I'm going to try and do, is add a V-band to this turbo housing. As you can obviously see, it's your normal 4-bolt flange, except it's, I mean, it is normal, but it's not normal. It's slightly bigger than the ones I have. I have like 1 or 2 in my parts bin from previous exhaust things that I've cut up for people, but neither of them are big enough to fit this. And again, the bolt thing, I just not a big fan of. So I've never welded cast iron to stainless steel before, but you know, I do love me some V-bands. So here I've got a 3-inch V-band. Now, of course, I could just preheat it, weld it like this, and probably get away with it, but the issue is that now adds another inch worth of material that, you know, I got to deal with. So granted, I'm not going to gain much space by doing the V-band here, because the V-band itself is basically as thick as the flange itself. So we're not getting huge gains here, but we are getting the simplicity of just having to, you know, work with just the V-band. So that's basically what we're going to be doing here. So I don't know where to buy this type of flange. I'm kind of not wanting to wait to order one. And you know, V-bands are just, again, so much easier, faster, and nicer to deal with. So the only concerning part is because it is right off the turbo, this thing's going to get pretty darn toasty. And yeah, that's the only downside, is it's going to get pretty hot. So we're going to probably melt a couple bolts or something. So we're going to start by just taking the exhaust housing off. I already undid the bolts, so we can just lift that straight off. To be honest, I don't really know the best way to cut this. It looks pretty darn thick, so I'm going to assume just kind of whatever you got to do, you got to do. So ideally, I'd like to cut it somewhere in the middle, right after the end here between this transition piece. So that'll give me a good like ridge to weld to. And the process for welding this thing's pretty strenuous. So to my understanding, to do this cast, we got to preheat this turbine housing pretty darn hot, a couple hundred degrees, and then we have to try and tack this all together, preheat this as well with it a little bit, and then we got to tack it together, put a whole bunch of tacks, preheat it again, go through, weld it, and then probably weld the inside as well, because that's the last thing I want, is this thing to fall off. So, but after you weld it, then you got to post heat it or cool it down very, very slow. So basically preheat it again to make sure it's up to like 250, 300 degrees, and then you got to wrap it in like blankets or towels or something, t-shirts or sand, and just let it cool over the next like 2-3 hours. And ideally after that you should have a crack-free weld, because you know, cast iron and stainless are just a little bit tricky to weld. So I do have 309 filler that I will be using, but you know, let's give it our best shot. Alright, so I got a healthy amount of tacks on here. I got one about every 3/4 of an inch or so, so I don't know, probably 10 or 12. I gotta keep the heat on it, so I did clamp the V-band down because these are male-female machine. If you cook the one too much, it'll slightly warp it and it won't go together and seal tightly. So that's why I clamped this on. It does make it harder for me to weld because there's obviously a lot less room. But yeah, I think I should be good. I'm gonna preheat it a bit more because right now we're sitting at 200 degrees, so yeah, I gotta heat it a bit more, and yeah, just go to town on it. Catch on fire, because I've never done this before, like I said, so we're all learning something here. We're either going to learn how to start a fire, or we're going to learn how to freaking cook cast iron and stainless. So ideally, you just kind of let that sit for a while now and keep it bundled up. It's definitely hot. I welded the inside as well, so it's like extra hot right now, and I wanted to try and make sure I got like as much weld as possible, so if the outside one doesn't work the best, hopefully the inside one helps. But yeah, I guess we just leave this for a little bit and come back to it later and hope that it didn't crack and fall off. So it's a little after 12 or a little after 10 p.m. as you can see, and just unwrapped and put together the turbo. It's still just a touch warm, like it kind of just came out of a hot bath, but yeah, we're looking pretty darn minty. There's no cracks. I did smack it with a hammer, and yeah, dude, I am stoked because that's a new skill learned. So now we have successfully converted our T3 turbo with a 4-bolt downpipe flange to a 3-inch V-band. So the V-band still fits because I did have it all clamped together to weld it, which made it kind of difficult because of how bulky it was, but you know, that way it didn't warp because we were absolutely cooking this puppy. So yeah, I'm very stoked on that. So now making our downpipe is going to be a breeze, especially for just removal and installation, and we saved about a 1/2 inch worth of a flange space. So now that's a 1/2 inch further away from the brake stuff that we got to worry about. So yep, I'm gonna wrap it up here for the night, so we'll see you guys tomorrow. Out here in the next morning, so I've already started prepping some material. So these are all pie cuts. I know that it's technically best to use mandrel bends, but in this case I don't have the space for pie cuts. Pie cuts look cool and they have their use, but I'm trying to get as much flow out of this setup as I can because I'm doing the log style, but I can't do a mandrel bend here. So this piece is all 7.5 degree angles, which is basically equals up to each piece of pie. Here's 15-degree cuts. I have some tighter radius bends here in the front. You can see they're skinnier, and then the last like 4 or 5 are a bit thicker. So does it fit? All right, so we are close to the brake line, but braided steel brake line, so I'm not too worried about it. And then I can also rotate the brake line up just a hair. And again, this is all getting ceramic coated, the downpipe and stuff, so heat shielding around the brake stuff too. So we should be completely fine. But yeah, so that looks pretty minty, honestly. That's looking like it's kicking right exactly where I need it to go. So if I tack that exactly as it is, I can kind of kick the downpipe straight down, like just add a straight piece and go from there. So in this case, I do have to weld this section first because stainless shrinks and pulls and moves a lot, especially on really thin stuff like this. This is a little bit thinner exhaust than I normally work with. So I'm gonna go ahead, purge this out, weld this up, and we'll be good. Downpipes I do purge. The rest of the exhaust systems, when it comes to stainless, I don't usually purge them. You don't need to. But the downpipes where it's going to see a lot of heat and stuff, I like to purge those out. I am so stoked. I got full penetration on I'd say a good 85 to 90% of this pipe, which full penetration has been something that I've been working on, like practicing. It sounds like it'd be easy, but it's a lot harder than you would think, especially when you're back purging, because the argon acts kind of like a shield. I mean, it is a shield on the inside, but it almost acts like a pillow cushion type thing when you're welding, like the way the puddle moves. The puddle's nicer with the back purge, but it's also harder to kind of gauge when you're actually like melted through per se. But I'm stoked. I am very proud of this. So I'm gonna let that cool off for a few minutes before I touch it, and we'll test it on the car and kind of see where we are from there. Actually, I'm sorry, I gotta attach the V-band to it once it cools, and then we can attach it back onto the turbo and then see what we're working with from there. We got some pretty minty fitment, so I'm pretty stoked on that. You can tell it's kind of a tight fit. I gotta tuck it in close to the manifold because it is 3-inch pipe, so we are a little snug between the downpipe, or between the manifold like here and then the subframe down there. So, but it fits nonetheless. So I already got this piece measured up next, so I already got it marked right there. You can kind of see it. I'm gonna go ahead and tack that down, and that'll put me out right to the bottom of the subframe, where I can then hopefully use one of those bends or use this other section of pie to kick it down, and then I can just shoot it straight back. I'm gonna have to make a new midsection to connect with the V-band that's already on the exhaust back there, but otherwise it's pretty much almost done. Like, I'm stoked. This is coming together nicely. We're looking pretty good down here so far. So it took me a while to figure out this awkward transition. It looks like it's kind of like a 90, but this top piece is turned one direction, and these other three are turned slightly more, and then this 45-ish, 40-ish, whatever you would, I think that is rotated more, and then this straight piece also has like a 7.5 degree cut to it, but it kicks it out pretty darn good. So like I said, this whole section here from right there, that V-band up to this flange, that's getting removed. This was that redneck exhaust shop pipe job, so I don't need that anymore. And then obviously I already have the V-band on that side, so assuming that my V-bands match that style, which they should, 3-inch male-female machine lip, then I can just build. I do have to add a V-band here though, so this whole section, this midsection here, is going to be its own V-band because this downpipe is already super tight to get up as long as it is now. So I can go ahead, this is a little offset obviously, so I can kind of cheat my way. I can chop it at this flare right here because I don't need the flare, and then I can add the V-band right here, and then we can kind of fake the funk and straighten that out a little bit. So that way it's a little bit more centered down the tunnel. Had more parts show up, so this is the oil cooler and stuff, and then we got AN lines and other stuff in the shed, so we're pretty much there. We pretty much have everything. So now it's just a matter of just getting all the work done, and being a one-man show, it's really time consuming, but it looks like my side job's here, so I'm gonna go do that really quick. Downpipe's totally done, all welded up. The only thing that it needs yet is technically I should add a flex pipe, so I gotta go to the parts store anyway, so I'll buy one there. And then I also need the O2 sensor bung, but I'm waiting for those to show up anyway. But otherwise the downpipe is entirely built. So the midsection, basically I just gotta recreate this slightly longer. The only other issue though is that the V-band is different, so I will be chopping the exhaust somewhere around here and just cleaning this pipe up and reusing that, so it'll be fine. And then I'll just build from like that point to the V-band that's on the end of the downpipe right now. Yeah, we're looking pretty swifty. As for the dump pipe, like I said, I'm just gonna do a little 90 and shoot it down, so nothing crazy. I'll just show you guys when that's finished up, but I'm gonna have to call it a day. I gotta go prep the S2000 for the track tomorrow, so we'll pick this up probably Sunday. So I'll see you in a couple days. All right, so we are back out here now working on the car. Picking up where we left off, I did finish the dump pipe, so let me show you that really quick. Oh, it's actually right here. So there we go. You can kind of guess where that's gonna go, obviously. Clamp's not set up yet because I have to pull everything off, all the hot stuff, manifold and all that stuff, so that way I can get it Cerakoted, which reminds me I need to call around and see who does it locally. But so I was gonna save the intercooler for the next video, but you know, let's at least get that mounted up because we'll have to make some sort of bracketry to mount that up, and then may or may not include the intercooler pipe in this one. If not, we will move that into the next video, but I don't know, let's see. Let's pull the bumper off, try and get the intercooler mocked up and see where we're sitting from there. So I'm thinking this is going to be pretty straightforward. I mean, I obviously got to trim the bumper quite a bit because this is that eBay bumper. I only trimmed it enough just to fit the bumper bar or whatever. So I got a few mounts to choose from. So either I can use these factory horn mounts, which are here and here. I can make some sort of bracket to go over, or I can integrate like some of these holes or drill new holes, use Rivnuts. Either way, we got plenty of options. So obviously, main goal is to make sure it's as close to center as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab the intercooler, and we're gonna try and get up on like some jack stands or something to, you know, mock it up. A few different options for mounting here. So ideally I'm thinking probably make some sort of bracket that comes off of here, because you know I don't run the T-bracket because I don't have a normal hood latch. I use the hood pin. So sorry, I'm out of breath. Freaking just had to push that weasel of a car out of the way. It's a drop-off car that's basically done, just doing some turbo work on it. But yeah, so this is what we're looking like. I think I got it pretty much perfectly level. It's hard because my driveway is on level, so the jack was on level, so the plate sat off a little bit, but got the bolt in there. So we're looking pretty good though. I'm gonna go ahead, play with some cardboard or something, figure out some sort of bracketry to mount this, but it's definitely looking like I'm gonna just utilize these two 10mm bolt holes here, make some sort of bracket, gusset plate type thing. We'll make it look, well, attempt to make it look pretty cool, because you know that's what we do. Summer's already coming fast. It's 93 today. It was 95 yesterday, so it's definitely getting warm. So this is my very poor attempt at doing a cardboard template. So you can kind of see like this general piece is the length that I need for the top of the intercooler for my bolt holes. This is the hanging over a little edge to edge, so the bolts will be somewhere, you know, centered up. And then this is where the center of this piece is going to be. So I have the line that I have to bend it at, ideally, so rough transfer again. So the general shape is just going to be like that. So pretty simple. And then at that seam line is going to be the bend, and it's going to sit up like that, and then we'll have the two bolt holes up there, we'll have the two bolt holes there, and then I'll just put a bunch of gussets in it because gussets always look super cool. And then yeah, well, I'll add little triangle braces here so that way it's you know, rigid. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Should be pretty simple. So let's go transfer this over to some metal. Scratch that idea, because after going back to take a second look at it, I'm concerned it's going to block a little bit too much of the upper portion of the radiator. And I need all the flow I can get, obviously, especially being here in Arizona, so I don't want to risk that. So I'm going to go on the bottom mount instead. So thankfully like I said, I showed you I have those two horn bolt holes. I'm going to basically just make two little tube ends with a washer welded to the end as a mounting point, and then just run some flat stock over, and then we'll just kind of make our own little like brace thing that we can then bolt up to it. So it'll be pretty easy. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to get started on it, get it tacked up, and then you'll see what I mean. You can better see what I'm talking about now. So I just notched this little thing, made the little spacer just like that. It'll focus in, because right here, obviously you see that's a big chunk of the center portion of my radiator, and I needed as much airflow as I could. So basically what I'm doing here now is I can raise the intercooler up just a little bit, but I also have to keep it level. So what I'm gonna do is take my digital angle finder here. So because again, my driveway is very unlevel, I will hold this here. So right now we're at 1.7, so we'll zero it out. Oh, that's power, my bad. So now we will zero it out. So now it's at 0 degrees, so now I just gotta put it on the intercooler. It's obviously gonna take both hands and then just set it towards 7 degrees and probably put it up just a little bit more, like I said. And once it's 0, you know, just tack it in place over there, and then we'll just recreate it over there. While I'm waiting for those to dry, I was just kind of doing some looking because I got my coupler in the mail or what I thought was going to be the right coupler. So this is a 2-inch to 2.5-inch 90-degree coupler. Ideally, this was supposed to come off of the top of the turbo here and then point me in the right direction that I need to be to get towards the cold side of the intercooler. But obviously, I would have room to trim it, but even if I trimmed it all the way down to the elbow portion, it's still going to stick out just a teensy bit over the cowl. So that's not going to work, so I have to order or try and find local a 90-degree cast aluminum weld elbow. So it's already 11 after 5. Everybody's closed for the day, all the piping material places. So I think for this video, I'm going to wrap that up there anyway. Actually, you know what? We'll finish painting these, we'll get this bolted up, and then we'll trim the bumper. How about that? Looking super centered, looking super sick. So we got just enough clearance on each side, so it's a tight fit, but you know it's tucked back in there, barely moves at all. So I'm probably not going to bother making like some sort of top mount, because once the intercooler piping is obviously in, it's going to be real snug. So I don't know if the bumper is going to fit, so let's test fit that real quick. Alright, so it's just the bottom freaking lip portion. It's just hitting my brackets, but it looks like I'm probably going to be able to fit the full-size bumper, like the grill and everything, with the intercooler. So that's really cool. So I'm going to grab my little Sawzall thingy and trim that up really quick. And survey says we are mint, so we got plenty of room. So let's see what we're looking like underneath. So it looks like we still got plenty of room to trim, or to get the intercooler piping, because I'm only using 2.5. Get the intercooler piping to come up this way, and then I may knock out some of this up here, but regardless, that'll be easy. I mean, cool. That looks sick too, because then, like, I mean, I still need a front lip because this is all exposed, and I don't like that because it looks kind of funny. So heck yeah, intercooler's nice and mounted, we're looking solid, everything is solid. So I suppose we can end that video now on that. So thanks for thank you guys for hanging out with me here on the channel. If you made it to the end, thank you very much. I truly appreciate you. Last video when I said comment flapjacks, every single comment, there's like 80 comments, so that's a good feeling knowing that many of you guys at least generally are watching to the end. So if you want to help support the channel, please by all means do. I do have a Patreon you can sign up for. I also have merch and stuff in the big cartel, and if you guys ever want to send me anything, I also have a PO box set up. So it's been dry for months and it depresses me because I see other people getting stuff all up in there from whoever, wherever, all over, and it's just I don't know. It'd be cool. So anyways, guys, do what you love, think about the rest, and we'll see you in the next one where we get some more freaking turbo stuff done because we're getting really close. Peace out.